back to the show. I'm your host, Charles. Today, I'm going to continue our Ask an Addict segment, and I'm just going to jump right into some of the questions that I've received here. So, first question: what unexpected benefits have you discovered that you didn't anticipate? It's a good question. I would say probably the gifts of recovery has been pretty profound. Also, my ability to kind of reclaim my life and a lot of different fun aspects of my life that I didn't really think I'd be able to. So, with the gifts of recovery, you know, for me, that's all about being able to start fresh, being able to have a genuine new beginning, a new life, because the reality is when we were in our active addiction, we were being controlled by something, right? We're not that same person. We're not held to that version of ourselves. So, in my opinion, as soon as we step into recovery, as soon as we have an active, desire to change and have a better life and all that stuff, that's a new life. So, for me, it's been really important and a, gift really to be able to do that. And part of that is switching up how I approach difficult situations. It's, changing up my friends. It's changing up the places I go, the things I do, that kind of stuff, right? Now, that being said, the other part of my answer, being able to reclaim stuff for my life, has also been really important. I'll give the example of, the pool hall, right? For a long time, my whole life almost, I've been playing pool. And part of my story was in the pool hall and, all the stuff associated with that. So over time, I was able to re socialize and find a pool hall that had no bar, right? I could go there with a support person and remember why I love to shoot pool and kind of get back into the flow of that. And eventually, with multiple steps, I was able to get back to that same original pool hall. And I had it all built up in my mind, right? As soon as I walked in, oh, this guy would be there and that guy, and oh my God, drama and trouble, and blah, 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 right? None of that happened. None of it. So that was another kind of unexpected benefit was I was able to see a situation for what it actually was and not what I built it up to be in my mind. Because I've done that a lot in my recovery. And over the years, I've been able to prove to myself that that's not the case. And that's been a pretty profound experience for me, because it helps in reclaiming a lot of those things from my life that, I enjoy, right? I love competing in pool, right? So it's good to be able to do that. And that's been a huge benefit for sure. So, next question here. How's your relationship with yourself changed since you begun your recovery? Massive difference. I mean, I, for a long time, I didn't really trust myself. In my early recovery, I kind of looked at the whole situation of, you know, everything that I had put myself in my active addiction and all the difficult situations, all the stress and drama and everything. And when I got clean, I didn't trust myself that that side wouldn't come out again. So it took some time. It took some time to actually be able to trust myself again and listen to my intuition and decipher between my intuition and my addict voice, especially early on. Um, so yeah, I mean, I also see myself in the mirror today, and I can hold eye contact. Right, I can say I'm proud of myself. I can see that I'm happy, that I'm doing well, all that stuff. So you know, I don't think I've ever felt more connected with myself than I do now in recovery. And the nice part too is that, if something comes up, some big, dramatic, stressful thing, whatever, I know that I can lean on my tools and myself to get through it, and figure it out in a better, safer way than I used to. Um, so those have been some pretty large moments for myself, for sure, in rebuilding that relationship with myself. So let's see. Next question here. Um, oh, by the way, small tangent. I just wanted to show this ring. My dad got this for me, actually. So it says Charlie Free. Let's see if you can see that. It says Charlie Free. It's got the number 9 on it. So every year, when I get another year of clean time, this number, the 9, pops off, and I can put on my next number. So I thought that was pretty cool. I wanted to share that. Kind of goes on with nerding out with our recovery and being proud of it and everything. So anyway, slight tangent there. Um, Next question here. Let's see. Can you describe a specific moment that is a turning point in your recovery? Yeah. Yeah. I'll give you one from active addiction and recovery, actually. So the moment in active addiction that pushed me to reach out for help and everything. So I was kind of couch surfing for a while, that sort of thing, and um, I was staying with my brother at the time. I was living on his couch, and I remember, man, I went through hell and high water and blah 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 and all this bullshit all day long to get a sack. Right, smoked it, didn't feel anything. Right, I just wasn't sick anymore, essentially. And I had this moment on the couch where I just felt so defeated. I felt so just alone. And I didn't know what I was going to do. And I was sitting there. I was at a crossroads, right? And I was sitting there thinking to myself, okay, I either need to do this right and put a needle in my arm to get the effect, or I need to reach out for some help, right? Right at that moment, when I was thinking which road to go down, my brother calls me, right? And he says, "Man, we got to tell people what's going on. It's getting out of hand." So next day, I sat my family down and told them what had been going on for the majority of my life, right? And they were all shocked. Nobody had any idea except for my brother. And next day, I went to treatment. And by the way, if you are nervous to tell your people about what's happening and all that, I can tell you that I was met with compassion. I was met with pride in my strength to be vulnerable and open up about something like that, and go and actually get help in a treatment center and everything. So it comes back to that whole building up stuff in our minds, right? So if that's something, addressing that topic with your loved ones, I mean, if that's something that has you feeling stuck, just go for it. Just go for it, right? Because the only way we can get out of these cycles is if we actively do something to break that cycle, right? Um, so anyway, slight tangent there, but I think it's important to point those things out, because there is a way out, 100%. We just have to do something that maybe we're uncomfortable with, right? We have to do something where maybe we feel vulnerable, whatever it is. But um, I'm not sure where I would be today, honestly, if I had chose that other road, So it was really important. Um, Now the other turning point. Um, so I remember when I was in treatment, I was doing my check in with the nurses, and they're doing vitals and asking questions and all that stuff. And a turning point there was the nurse could tell that I was really nervous, and I didn't know what to expect. I'd never done anything like that before, never been to a treatment center or anything, so I was pretty nervous. And she could tell, and she started to open up to me about her own crack addiction and how she had beat it. And I said, "Oh my God, it's possible? What the fuck?" Right? So as soon as there was something so calming and relieving about hearing that from her, because finally I thought to myself, "Oh, These people are here to take care of me. I'm in the right place. These people know what I'm going through. They've been through it. They've found a way to get clean and stay clean. This is where I need to be. And at that moment, I decided I was going to be open minded to everything. I was going to try everything. I was going to open up. I was going to get all my deepest, darkest everything off my chest and start over. Right now, some of the suggestions that they had, some of the things that I tried, they weren't for me, but that's okay. They have every walk of life going through there, right? So they kind of have to do a shotgun approach where they have a whole bunch of different tools and things that might help the majority. But the key is once you find those specific things that are helpful, you got to zoom in on them and start to put in the time and effort to learn more. And I think the hardest part of all that is not necessarily learning all the tools and going through classes and all that stuff, but once you get back out into the real world, the hardest part, in my opinion, is seeing how to apply those tools and things we just learned to real life situations in the middle of a triggered state, right? That kind of stuff. And my best advice there is practice it ahead of time. Think back on a time when you felt triggered, when you felt cravings, whatever it was, and think to yourself, what tool might have been helpful there, right? And almost do like a matching game kind of thing. Try and line them up, right? Because then you can project those same situations forward and you can say, oh, I'm going to Uncle Bob's New Year's thing. And they always drink. Every single year they drink, right? And then you can think to yourself, okay, well, I've been to parties in the past and it didn't go well. But I know that if I involve the tool of having my own transportation so I can leave if I get, if I have strong craving or trigger, having a support person there, calling somebody, like there's so many things that we can put in place there, right? So that we can actually have that fun experience and we can be safe about it. See, that's the key, right? We're not just diving into situations, just, well, let's see what happens, hope for the best, right? No, 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 no. No, we're taking all the experiences and tools and everything that we've learned through treatment and recovery as a whole and applying them to life and finding that new way of dealing with situations like that. Right. Um, so those are a couple points I wanted to touch on there with that question. Um, Next question here. What role has community played in your recovery process? It's been huge. It's been huge. I early on when I was out of treatment, I focused on therapy and as many meetings as I could get into. Right now, the meetings kind of served a few different purposes for me. Um, I decided early on that I was going to need to drop like 90% of my friends. Right, they were still stuck in their same old stuff, and it just was too risky for me to be around that. I had to put my recovery first. And I'm very grateful I did. I don't think I'd be where I'm at today if I hadn't had made that strong choice and followed through. But um, yeah, meetings for me, it was a really good therapeutic, helpful environment to get things off my chest and feel empathy for others again, listen to their story, that kind of stuff. Um, but also going early and staying after late was really helpful too. I could be a service to others, setting up chairs, making coffee, whatever it was. I could also go out with others afterwards, go have a cup of coffee with them, get to know them on a more social level. We go have dinner, we could whatever. There was oftentimes a group that would go out and do that together, a bunch of people from the meeting. So, yeah, community was huge, and I think also part of community for me was kind of proving to myself that I was a good person, that I deserved a fresh start, that I deserved good things, and I think that was definitely a place where I started to, kind of experience that more, kind of start to believe that a little bit more. And I could also see like, hey, I'm still a fun person, I, I'm still a nice person. I'm still fun to be around, blah, blah, blah. So I think that was another important part for me to prove from just a social standpoint, that I didn't need a substance to be, happy or have fun or be included or whatever it was. So sometimes we just have to prove those things to ourselves. It can be a really important step, because I mean, we can have 100 people, pointing that kind of stuff out to us, saying those kinds of things to us, but until we actually believe it for ourselves, it's not really the same. Just the same way that recovery might not stick if we're not 100% fully on board, you know, because it's hard. It's hard work. It takes a lot of dedication. It takes the desire to start over and navigate the bumps in the road and all that stuff, right? So it's a lot of moving parts to it, but yeah, I mean, community was huge, and it still is today. It serves a slightly different purpose today than in my early recovery, but still huge for sure. Um, and then last question here. Let's see. How do you practice self care and maintain your well being now? First thing is I listen to myself. I'm true to myself, right? If I have a weird feeling about a situation, if I feel uncomfortable, I respect myself enough today to do something about it, and not just let myself be in a dangerous situation anymore, and I think that was a big moment for me as well, because oftentimes people will talk about well-being and self-care and all that, and they'll think like, oh, so you get like in massages and you go and take a nap. Like, no, that's not, that might be part of it. If you're really tired, if you're all, your neck's all crooked and you're stressed out, and right, that might be part of it, taking care of ourselves. But, for me, it's a lot more, it's a bigger picture. For me, it's about, this is how I used to treat myself, right? Last in line, bottom of the barrel, right? Very much a hedonist, as finding as much pleasure and fun as I could, ignoring everything negative and blah, blah, blah. But, today I respect myself. I see myself as somebody who deserves good things, right? I see myself as somebody who's started over and been able to continue to build, every day. And I think that's one of the bigger parts for me. Matter of fact, I interviewed Mike Wagner for the second time. It was part two, and we were discussing what got him to 44 years of sobriety. And he was saying that the biggest thing for him was that he became worthy of taking really good care of himself. It's huge. It's huge. And to hear somebody with 44 years say that kind of solidifies a lot of these, parts for myself too, So I think, it's also kind of a proactive approach for me today, right? Like if I know I have some big difficult thing coming up, I'll beef up the self-care, right? I'll go out with some buddies and shoot some pool before, right? I'll find some way to balance it for myself. I'll make sure, after that really difficult thing, I got dinner lined up, ready to go. I got, I'll just take it easy. I'll relax afterwards. All that kind of stuff is important, because one surprising thing to me about all this, has been how much things truly affect me. You know, for a long time, I was just so numb to it in my active addiction. I didn't really notice, but in my recovery, I absolutely notice things that, can impact our overall well being. And, I think for myself, the really key important ones are, you know, having people around me. If I feel isolated or I feel alone or I feel some strong emotions or whatever, I have to get it off my chest. I have to tell somebody, I have to do something, you know, and so, sometimes that can look like, a video meeting, right? Sometimes that's an in-person one. Sometimes that's, you know, sitting our partner down, right? Talking to them about it, getting off our chest, whatever it is. But like for me, if I don't, it just sits there and it festers, right? Just because I stop thinking about it doesn't mean it goes away. Right? It just sits there and it festers and gets worse. And, then my anxious little brain takes over and I think about it. It's this hamster wheel of never ending thought. And I just keep going over, but what about this and that? And blah, 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 blah. And it's no good. We got to break that. So it's, um, definitely important to notice those patterns with ourselves. And then once we notice them, work with somebody to develop a plan on how to deal with those things. That's a good place for a coach or a counselor or, a sponsor, whatever you want, right? But try to map those things out, try to write them down and say, oh man, every time this happens, I relapse. Every time that happens, I get so fucking angry. I don't know what to do, right? Write all that stuff out, plan it out, get your map going, you know, and then you can start to plot these points on your map and eventually you'll get the whole picture, right? And then okay, if I go over here, I need this tool, I need to drive my own car, I need to have a person with me. That's it, right? And then you can start to prepare for these things ahead of time. So a proactive approach is also very important for me with self-care and maintaining my overall well-being for sure. So um yeah, that's the last question. But if you have any questions and you want me to read them and answer them on this show, you can post them as a comment or I'll attach my email and you can send them in. So look forward to hearing them. Thank you.